There's a couple of folks not here. Aleftina, who was missing? I think only Aleftina.
Do you have a flight here? Would you like
Yeah, I know. This is a flight. Sure. Okay, so the next tune we'll do, the one that goes. So this tune probably you have heard. And it's somewhat similar to the previous tune, but different enough. Okay, so why don't you just play it through and just listen to it. Давай. Thank you. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes, wow, this tune is a whole world, frankly. I'm very grateful for this tune. And it's amazing to me. I've loved this tune for decades and decades, and it still loves me back. After all these years, we don't get tired of each other. So this is I think, it's both a zingendik and a redendik tune. It's very lyrical and it's yet very rhetorical. And it's almost never tanzevdik. It's always very internal or communicative. And it's unusual. It's a very Jewish, nusach-oriented minor melody, 110% Ashkenaz melody. Yet, I also mentioned, I think in an earlier lecture, it's one of the few melodies that have a usul. It has a rhythmic structure, which is exactly like the Ottoman usul chember. If you count it, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's the old form of chember from 200 years ago, in Prince Kantemir's time. So there's a rhythmic cycle of 12. Never mind the Western notation is written as 2/4. It's in 12, and the whole sentence is in that length. It also has, it's very unusual in that it has a repeated formula in every section, which is da-da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum. In a sense, the whole dance is structured around that formula. Most Jewish tunes do not have that. The Jewish tune will have a cadenced formula. This tune unusually has this da-da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum. And in a way, in each section of the tune I feel different. It's a different expression, and yet this comes back. This thing brings you back, and you have to, after years, you have to think what this means to you. This da-da-dum, da-da-dum, da. It's almost like, sometimes I think of it as much as happy as I may be at a certain point, but something comes back and warns me. Da-da-dum, da-da-dum, there's something there kind of lurking. It's a strange combination. And by the way, when I was working in Moldova, and I was making comparisons, because I have this article called The Klezmer Tunes for the Christian Bride, published in Bucharest, and we observed that in Moldavian Christian weddings, they have a tune like this, which in the Stoyanov collection is called La Nunta, at the wedding. And lo and behold, it's very much like this tune, except it doesn't have the formula. Da-da-dum, da-da-dum, dum, which is the essence of the tune. So evidently to the Moldovans, this was not relevant. Whatever the Jews were trying to say with this da-da-dum, da-da-dum, it's not there. The rest of the tune is there, but not this. So that's also not an accident, that this was such a Jewish expression that the Christians said, we don't know what they're trying to do with this. And so the rest of the tune is nice, and they played it at Christian weddings. It's called La Nunta, it's at the wedding, except minus the heart is not there. Just not there. So, and of course, the Moldovans don't dance like us. It's quite a different dance culture. So, and as I learned, this is probably one of the Kuntek de Pahar, one of the songs of the wedding cup, which were usually chosidal dance tunes, which were not danced. People would raise their cups and toast the bride and groom to these tunes. And I discovered this, 30 years ago maybe, to my friend Christina Crowther, who discovered this rare publication from Yash, where lo and behold, in 1938, they documented an Orthodox priest, Jan Kyriak, playing these Husid tunes at the Christian weddings. Yes. So this is, was a well-known tune. There's a version in Belf. There's a word that my teacher, Dave Taras, had recorded in New York, which is classic. So, you okay?
About Taras's recording.
Oh, yeah.
What do you make of the fact that he plays it quite a bit faster and really, in a way, straighter? like if we were to listen to this recording
Right.
compared to what Mark and I just did,
Right.
our interpretation of it is very nuanced and fluid.
Right.
Also in its tempo and everything, and Tara's
Yeah.
all the way through.
Yeah.
How should we understand
Well,
that?
look, from what I understand of his career, is Dave understood that now he's in New York.
Okay.
And this was among the few Chosidal type recordings he did, and he immediately switched to Bulgars and Serbas
And
and
this
Horas.
was in his earliest 20s, right?
Exactly.
22.
Ex-
I think it was 22.
Even
23.
25 maybe, he came over in 22 I believe, but
Yeah.
it was an early recording, yeah. And I've noticed in the chronology of his recordings that he was from a Hasidic klezmer family, the Taraschuks, but he had come to Yedinitz, to our shtetl, when he and his wife Shifra escaped during the Russian Civil War. They crossed the border into what was then Romania at that point, and he spent time, as he told me, with the musicians in Yedinitz, who were famous in those days. And he came to New York, and he had an encyclopedic brain. I mean, when he learned something quick, he would just learn it fast. He could notate easily. And he had a whole repertoire of Yedinitz, Lautar, klezmer melodies, in addition to what he had before of his own, klezmer and Hasidic melodies. And when he came to New York, he recorded a few Chosid tunes, the Triska Rebbe's Chosidal and this Shtashil, the Schwiegerkind, the wedding ritual, which appears as Hasidic in other contexts. And very quickly he understood that the immigrant Jews, somehow, this was not what they were looking for. This is not the mood of New York in the 1920s. Okay, my father also came to New York exactly the same time in the 20s. He didn't ask my father, but apparently he understood. And Dave was like that. He was very fast. He didn't talk much, but he listened. He understood where he was. So right after that, he started recording Bulgars and Serbas, and boom, that was his next, So I'm not surprised that even though he recorded it a bit faster.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I think. By the way, I'm very fond of Alicia Spiegel's recording of this, because I think, Alicia somehow senses the depth and the inwardness and the tragic quality of the tune more than Dave did. When he recorded it, I'm sure Dave understood that, but and her only source, I think, then would have been the Dave Towers recording. But somehow she instinctively knew there was something else going on in that tune. So I recommend that recording of her, from her fiddle recording. From the fiddle, her first solo CD. It was a CD, right. So, again, this is, as Josh Walesky would say, this is Zingendik and Redevdik. So we have a rhetoric here. We can start to stand up, I think, and see what we can do with it. Okay. And just keep it minimal at the beginning. Just listen and just feel the balance of your body, what it wants to do. Great. Okay, good. I think most of you got the idea. Half of you had your eyes closed some of the time. I did, too. So let's play it again. Keep it inward, but keep it inward, but allow your body to go a little bit out, a bit. Okay.
By the way, I would say that the really clearly Tanzdik moment is this here. It starts.
Exactly.
If that's not Tanzdik.
That's Tanzdik. Yeah. So, but the challenge for you, or for all of us, is to integrate that Tanzdik moment into the whole feeling.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to lose the whole feeling.
And it goes right back.
Right back, exactly.
Right back into the...
Right? You think you're dancing, huh?
Right.
I'll show you.
Don't forget the starving children in Africa.
That's right.
All right?
Okay, this tune doesn't give you a break. No,
No breaks.
no breaks. great beginning. Shana Onoid. Very nice. Very nice. Now, for a moment, come closer, please. Let's talk about hands. Okay? Because you're moving nicely, your steps are good, but this is a kind of tune where you can think about depending on how you feel it. We can dance with fingers. And by the way, when Jews wanted to be the most intense, they would do this. When I used to dance with my partner in Israel, Carmel, often she would start doing this. You sure your fingers are screwed on right? It is the koan, of course. But yes, the Ashkenazim dance that way sometimes. Right?
You know, I mentioned to you that I have a hand mutation that when you see it on this side it looks like that, and you see it on this side it looks like that.
What?
Have you ever noticed that?
No.
And the crazy thing is it's exactly the opposite of the other hand.
Really?
Well, look.
Strange. Pretty good. Well, there's something we can sit home and practice. Because it begin to look like fins rather than hands. See? Right. So, and once you start doing that, I find like the whole directional motion of the hand changes. You don't do that for the whole dance, but there may be moments. And you become conscious of this whole pattern of moving your wrist. It's a new kind of exercise.
There's actually a Tai Chi exercise.
Like this? Really?
They call it carrying a pearl.
Really?
Yeah. Because you're supposed to have the pearl in your hand. You have the pearl in your hand. You know it. Exactly. And then the idea is to keep the pearl and release it over your hand, and to not let it fall out of your hand. And you twist like this and you come up like this. They're both doing it. Pearl in your hand.
Wow.
They still have fun too.
Yeah. Years ago people told me that I look like I'm practicing Tai Chi.
Well,
that's probably why. Yes. Jews become magicians. See, we are priestly magicians.
That's very interesting because there's a whole anti-Semitic trope about Jews being black magicians.
Of course.
And it's just making me wondering whether this motion, like observed from the outside, could look to somebody like, oh, they're doing incantations.
Exactly.
Very interesting.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. And this was, part of the wedding. It wasn't like, in Turkey the Alevis were like a secret sect, so they would never allow outsiders to come in. And it's only recently that they're more open. Maybe they're wise, but the Jews, we weren't as strictly, segregated in that sense. So so this is something to practice, for when you have the urge. Because as you can feel, it creates tension. And that's the point. And this tune is a tense tune. It's a very introverted tune. And I find this is the kind of tune where sometimes, I would use it. Is it hurt? Good. It's supposed to make you feel tense. Right, it's the opposite of the kind of happy motion of hands that you might have in Armenian dancing or something, where you're just going back and forth. It's very nice. But, this is a whole other level. And since it's twisted to begin with, in a sense, it encourages you to twist your wrist and your arms in unusual ways. And once you're doing this, imagine when you try to step and move. Right? It gets a little bit tricky. Actually, which reminds me, there's a wonderful story. I forget, a Yiddish woman writer, and I, in my book, somewhere, I quote translation English, where a woman, when she's dancing, her daughter, who was estranged from her for many years, come back to her in Lithuania. And she starts to dance in front of her daughter as though she were blessing the Sabbath candles. And she's moving her hands like this. This is a motion of blessing. To the eyes, covering the eyes and down.
Who is the writer? Do you remember her name?
It'll come to me. Somehow, yeah. Again, it's in my book. I know it's there. I could find it. In the chapter on Chosed probably, or maybe the chapter on dance. Yeah, probably dance chapter. So, there's no end to what the gestures can accomplish and suggest. Because this is one kind of tension, and then this is a more inward. And this is, again, the kind of tune where this also could have its motion. And of course, this motion actually, Nata, I think, Natalia here had interviewed an old Jewish lady in Belarus. And she mentioned that sometimes the men, she was an old lady, I think in her 90s, Bronislava, right? I'm talking about Bronislava. That she remembered the men dancing almost as though they were weeping. Almost as though they were weeping. And I remember when I was interviewed in Israel by a very good journalist for the Ma'ariv newspaper after my class in Yerushalayim, he noticed that some of my motions were like toward my face as though I were weeping. And yes, that is part of it. So don't be afraid. In Jewish dancing you can do that, in fact. Right? So it's the most sort of inward, you're kind of blessing, but you're also blessing yourself.
Do you think this weeping is individual, or is it diasporic weeping?
I think it's
weeping for the loss of.
Well, it's both, and depending on how you want to look at it. But again, it's weeping and blessing at the same time.
Yeah.
So, which also reminds me of our Alevis, who believe that God is within every human being. So this is another Kabbalistic twist. So you have this inward look for the divine as well. So you take, in a sense, you take yourself seriously, you take everybody else seriously. And I can't resist what I was told by an Alevi I met in Turkey years ago, that we see God's face in every human being's face. That we have to look at every human being as though we're looking into the face of God, and they had many beautiful drawings like that of the face of God with the name Ali, this incarnation of God. And I remember speaking with him, I said, yeah, and the problem of humanity is when we cease to look into each other's faces. And he said, yeah.
What does it mean?
To cease, to stop looking into one another's faces. And he said, yeah, that's what causes all the problems in the world when we don't.
There's this great expression, makabel punim,
Yeah, makabel punim.
which is when you want to honor someone, for example, for their birthday or something, you say lomir, let us, and then you say the person's name, makabel punim.
Ah, yeah, makabel punim zayin.
Yeah, it means read into their face, look at them in their face,
Yes.
acknowledge them to their face. That's makabel punim.
Makabel punim zayin. Yeah. So again, this is also part of dancing because, again, at this point, since we're just learning, we're trying to be in control of our own bodies first. You can't relate to another body until you know what you're doing. But at some point, there are fleeting moments when we acknowledge the other person. Right? And that's, by the way, what our friend Lielen got her so annoyed, was that the people she was dancing with didn't pay attention to her. When there was this moment when she was making a gesture with her eyes. And of course, it's not the legs, not the feet, it's the eyes. So this is another point that in Jewish dancing, everything is relevant. Your nose is relevant. Your mouth is relevant. You can't think that, I'm just doing my feet, and I can do anything I want here. No. We see it all. So it's meaningful. Right? And again, it's not a parody. See, of course, it's very easy to make a parody, and that's why people have been parodying the Jews for thousands of years. Because if you don't understand, if you're an outsider, and you don't understand this, it looks very strange. In fact, I remember, there are paintings in monasteries in northern Moldavia, in Bukovina, beautiful paintings. And when I was young, I hitched rides, like I was 19 years old, I hitched a ride up to somewhere, Rodanets or something in northern Bukovina. And they have paintings of the Last Judgment. Christ is judging everybody. So he has one painting where you have the Turks and the Tatars. They're being judged. And the Turks are like this. The Tatars. So. Another painting, the Jews are being judged. What are the Jews doing? Seriously, pulling their beards and their hands are up. This is 500 years ago. So of course the outsiders, they see this too. It's visible, but now we're insiders. Oops. So let's try this again.
A quick
Okay.
side remark on that.
Right.
It's not directly relevant, but it's interesting that critics viewed Mahler's conducting, because Mahler gestured a lot, as a giveaway of the fact that he was a Jew, and that he could never actually conduct non-Jewish music properly because he was so expressive with his conducting that it was Jewish conducting in his time.
I didn't know that. Even from Mahler, Davka.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, strongly.
And he was a German speaker, right? He was.
Oh yeah. He at one point he occupied all of the major conducting chairs in Germany, and still the critics were saying, "What are we doing, letting
a Jew in this
role?" And you can see that he's a Jew from his conducting style. He's gesturing all around like a Jew and like a woman. Those are the two. Those are the two accusations.
Jews and
Gestures
women.
Like a woman. Right.
There you
Jew
go.
and a woman.
It's a good thing he
There's
wasn't
a big story
a
about
woman.
this, which I don't want to take time in this, but if you're interested in the issue of Jews and women and Jewish masculinity being framed as two feminines,
sure,
and how that relates to the Nazis, it's an extremely interesting subject.
It is.
Really super interesting subject. We can talk about that. What?
When can we hear you on that?
After the volunteer concert tonight.
Okay, it's a cool subject.
Very interesting.
Okay, let's just take a bit of water and continue. Water, and then we continue. 2 minutes. Okay, folks. Let's do 10 more minutes of this, then we'll go for a lunch bite, and we come back. Okay. Lunch is coming soon. Yeah. All right. We'll do this for a few more minutes, and then I see there's hunger in the world. Okay. That's not a gesture. That looks like a chewing motion. Okay, let's start again, please. Ooh. Okay.
Let's eat.
Let's eat. Schönen Dank. Schönen Dank.
Nicht so verwusst.
Schönen Dank. Mark and you.
Thanks, my dear.
Great. Beautiful. Beautiful.